Underrated, we the underdogs, underestimated.
Okay, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Totem Podcast. Today we got a different room. We're in a new place today. We got a very special guest for you guys today. Like always, we got Erick. What's going on, Erick?
How's it going? We're like you said, we're in a different spot. A little different, but it's gonna benefit us a lot more, especially when it comes to our special guest here.
Special guest, yes, for sure. With that, help me guys welcome Mr. Future Governor Greg Lopez. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm really excited about our conversation today.
Yeah, we appreciate you taking the time because I'm sure as stuff gets closer to the elections, you're getting really busy going here, over there. So I appreciate you taking the time out to meet up with us and make this happen.
No, you bet. Look, to your point, right? We are now on the top line for the primary ballot for the Republican Party. And so a lot of people are reaching out and saying, hey, we want to know who you are. We want to know what you stand for. And we want to know what you're going to do for our great state of Colorado. So,
and that was barely this this weekend, right?
Just last past Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then how did that all go about? Like you getting on for the primaries and stuff like that. Were people like seeing you like be there, or people like you still got the doubters and stuff?
No. I mean, so what happened on Saturday, right? 4,730 people got together from across the state. Okay, and we all got a chance to do a 10-minute speech, and then they got to vote. In order for you to get onto the ballot, you got to get over 30% of the vote, and I was the highest receiving candidate for the governor. So that's why my name will show up first on the ballot itself.
That's good. That's a plus right there for sure.
Yeah. Do they just take into account like the votes you got there, or is
just
it also
like
there? Okay,
just a vote at that meeting, which happened down at the World Arena down in Colorado Springs.
Okay.
Yeah.
And nice. Was anybody invited to like an event like that, or is it like kind of like more private event stuff?
Well, predominantly, it's the Republican Party. Right, so it's all the Republican delegates. You could be a guest, right, and be there just to watch and observe. I had an interview with Telemundo there, and so everybody can show up. But again, it was the gathering of all the people across 64 counties for them to vote on who they want to see as the governor for the party.
Okay, I like that you just hit the 64 because I actually did a little research. You're the only person that's actually visited all 64 counties, right?
Right. We've been out there talking to a lot of people visiting the 64 counties because it's about all of us. It's not just some of us. We got a governor right now that he thinks that Colorado is only 9 counties. And those are the counties like Denver, Adams, Arapahoe, and Jefferson. And he really doesn't care about what's going on in rural Colorado.
I-25 corridor, pretty much. Yeah,
pretty much.
Just the city, but then most of Colorado is made up of like rural America. And
right.
That they don't, I feel like, take into account.
Yeah.
All of the stuff like the small guys deal with out there.
Exactly. Yeah. He really doesn't connect, right, with anybody outside of the urban corridor. And I truly believe that Colorado deserves a governor that understands that he must understand what's going on throughout the entire state.
Yeah, because I remember when we're trying to get this together, trying to make it happen. I talked to you a few days ago. You're like Ray area. I don't know if you guys know where Ray is, but it's a very small town over northeastern Colorado, and it's like it's good. I mean that you're actually going out there.
Yeah, like next week I'll be next Tuesday. It looks like I'm going to be in Kit Carson, talking to people. So yeah, I mean we go to every county to the best of our ability, But right now our schedule's getting really, really full. So we got to figure out where we're going to go. Yeah.
That's a good thing, though. I mean, that is a good thing. That you're pretty booked. You got options to go with now.
Right. Exactly. Really the goal right now is name recognition. Right. People need to go to my website, lopez2022.com, learn more about me, but also follow us on Facebook. Right. And just let people know that, hey, there's a guy out there by the name of Greg Lopez. He's running for governor, and I would be the first Hispanic governor for the state of Colorado. And I think it's time. I think that the Hispanic people should have a true representation because we're 21% of the population for the state of Colorado.
Yeah, we'll put those links down in the description so you guys can check them out. But I just want to get the obvious out of there.
Sure.
How does because you're obviously Hispanic,
right?
So how does Hispanic join the Republican Party and chooses to run as a Republican.
Sure.
Because typically it's like Hispanics, no, you can't be a Republican. You got to be like the Democrat.
You got to go for because that's the culture everyone's ingrained or grew up with.
Exactly.
Right?
You know, so let me tell you a little story. So, you know, I grew up with, my parents never voted. Okay, my mom and dad never voted. You know, my dad, both my parents grew up working in the fields. And so my dad had a 6th grade education. He never really learned how to read and write. And my mom has a 10th grade education. You know, but they taught us boys, you stay out of trouble, you go to school, you surround yourself with good people, you know, you believe in the Bible, and you pray, and you believe in our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, and you can live the American dream. So I come from humble beginnings. You know, I don't come from money. I don't come from a great education. You know, I'm just one of us for all of us. I'm just like you guys, right? Just trying to make a living. So when I was elected mayor here in Parker, Colorado, I was elected at the age of 27.
One of the youngest, right?
I was the youngest mayor elected in the state at the time. You know, and it was a strong mayor. So not only was I the mayor, but I was a city manager. So all the department heads reported to me. So the chief of police reported to me, public works, finance, you know, the attorneys, everyone. And so I learned a lot. And the interesting thing is that I was a registered Democrat.
Thanks for touching that. I was going to tell you, like, because I was like, I believe you were a Democrat at that time.
I was. You know, I was a registered Democrat, got elected mayor in one of the strongest Republican counties in the state. And so a lot of people were like, how in the world did a Democrat get elected in a Republican county? And it was because, you know, I do what I'm doing now, just talking to people, right? And sharing my ideas. You know, and I would, not that we have a lot of time, but I want to tell you, the Democrat Party, when I told them that I was running for mayor, and they asked me, where are you at? And I said, Douglas County. They basically said, you know what, you're going to lose. They threw me to the curb, man. They said, you know what, they wouldn't even give me $50. I asked for $50, and they said, we're not going to give you anything.
Really?
Right?
Wow.
Because we don't think you can win. Of course, I win, and then they start calling. You know, and I told them, I said, you know what, when I needed you, you kicked me to the curb.
Left me hanging.
Yeah, now that I'm in, you know, now you want to talk to me. And I told them, look, I'm not going to be your poster child, you know. And so, but when I got elected, I would go to the schools, and I talked to a lot of kids, you know, from first graders up to high school. And they would always ask me, what party are you and why? And my answer was always, I'm a Democrat because my mom and dad are. After a while, though, I thought, you know what, that's not a very good answer. I should have a better answer. So I studied the national platforms. I took the Republican platform and the Democratic platform, and I had a mentor on both sides. And after 8 weeks, I decided, you know, my wife and I, we did what they call the Benjamin Franklin close. So basically what it is, you take a piece of paper, you put a line down the middle of it, you put all the issues on one side, you put an R and a D, and then you just check off. You know, how do you believe? Well, I had more checks on the R side than I had on the D side. And so I decided, you know what, I'm a Republican. You know, because I come from humble beginnings. And so when you look at the Republican Party, they want smaller government, right? They don't want to waste money. And so, you know, for me, every dollar matters, specifically when we're paying taxes. And I don't like paying taxes. You know, so the less taxes we can pay, the better it is. You know, so I changed parties after studying the national platforms. I just didn't do it because I felt I should, right? I had a reason. And I'm going to tell you, right, the Democrats, their hair caught on fire because I was the only Democrat to get elected in Douglas County, right? And the Republicans were like, who is this guy? Is he really a Republican, or is he just doing this to get reelected? And, you know, I didn't seek reelection. You know, my wife reminded me that I should be a husband and a father. And so I chose not to seek reelection because my son at that point was 4 and my daughter was going on 2. And so I was spending a lot of time away. But I found a quote that would answer the question, right? Because people say, well, why did you change, right? From both sides. And it's a quote from Winston Churchill. And it goes like this: some men will change their values and beliefs for the sake of the party. Others will change parties for the sake of their values and beliefs. And that's what I did. And
then, and when you switched, were you the mayor at the time? Like halfway through,
I was a sitting mayor.
And then you're just like, hey, you know what? Just kidding. You know, I think that's this now. Thing, right? Or how did that go about?
So in the local offices, right? Mayors, city council members, that type of stuff. You'll never see an R or a D next to their name during an election. Okay, that happens at county levels and higher. So there was no letter next to my name when they voted for me. But if you looked at me, they would say, well, look at him. He's got to be a Democrat. He's Hispanic. And the answer was, yeah, I am a Democrat, And so, from that perspective, when people saw that I changed party affiliations, like I said, a lot of people were worried about what's he doing. But when I explained to them why I did it, then they realized, this guy's for real. This guy doesn't play politics. He talks about what's going on in his life and how he looks at the issues. And so people understood it, right? That because we could talk about whatever issue they wanted to talk about, right? Capital punishment, foreign policy, all of the education in the schools, whatever it was. I could have a conversation with them and explain to them why I feel the certain way that I do. And that way they at least felt like, this guy understands why he's changing parties. Yeah.
I think that's important. What you just said is like, it's not until you get higher up in the elections, but there's no R or D next to the name.
Right.
Do you think that's something that maybe should be considered going down the road, so that way people can actually vote on their beliefs, not just because of the party?
Or maybe even now, at the governor.
Right, at the governor's race, right? Yeah. Look, I think there is a need for Republican and Democrats as far as party affiliations, right? You got to choose a team. What team do you want to be on, right? But ultimately, regardless of what team you're on, you need to do your own homework. You need to know who these people are. Look, yes, I'm running for governor, but I'm applying for a job. That's actually what I'm doing. I'm applying to be the CEO for the entire state of Colorado.
This is the job interview here.
This is a job interview. Yeah. Exactly. People forget that, everybody that gets elected, they're public servants. They're supposed to listen to the voice of the people. They're supposed to do what's in the best interest of all people, right? Making sure that the quality of life for everyone is getting better. I tell people it's about all of us, not just some of us. So yeah, people need to interview every single candidate and ask them the hard questions, not the easy ones. Ask them the hard ones and see what they're doing. Do
you think there's a lot of maybe not just you, but other politicians that say I'm a Democrat or I'm a Democratic Party or Republican Party, and they say I'm a Republican, so I have to believe all their values, even though they're not, just to be part of the team? You're saying it's, you know what I mean, kind of.
I think that's the old mindset, right? They used to believe that, hey, if you're an R or a D, you got to agree 100% with their platform, right? And you got to vote 100% with their candidates, right? I think people today are looking at the principles of what these parties stand for, right? And the issues that they're facing every single day. I'm here to tell you that every issue is local. Politics is local. What's going on in Durango and Lamar and Sterling and Craig, Colorado, is not what's happening in Denver, Aurora, or
it's completely different lifestyle.
Totally different, right? And so people need to understand that you need to have someone that truly can comprehend what's going on, right? With compassion and empathy. Our goal really is to make the life of every Coloradan better, right? Where everybody can live the Colorado dream. And that's what I'm about. And so I think more and more people are starting to look at, I'm a Democrat or I'm a Republican, but I really want the right person. I want the person that's going to help me and my family live a better life.
And then kind of another kind of topic I wanted to hit, we're talking about the parties and stuff. Mm-hmm. A lot of people they become career politicians, and so they make their money being a politician,
right?
And that's what it's interesting about you. I seen that you were the director of the SBA. Right. You were the
president and CEO of the Rocky Mountain Minority Supplier Development Council.
Right.
The Chamber of Commerce, the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah.
So it's you got a background of other stuff. I don't know if you're a career politician. That's what I'm saying, because usually they don't have money. They're a politician now. They're rich.
Right.
What's your take on some stuff like that?
When I heard that, some people say, Greg, he's a career politician, is interesting. The last time I held an elected office, right, that people voted me in, was mayor, and I was mayor from '92 to '96. So since 1996,
you're 27 now. So
yeah.
You're not 27 no more, right?
It's been a while.
It's been a while. But I'm not. To your point, I'm not a career politician. I've been involved in politics. I've been involved in issues, right, that impact thousands of people, like the Chamber of Commerce, right, like the director of the United States Small Business Administration. So for 7 years, I was the voice and face of small business. I represented 685,000 small businesses across the state of Colorado. And these were black business owners, white business owners, Hispanic, Asian, Native American, veterans, women, everybody.
What's kind of like the device? You said business owners,
right?
And you didn't say like white or but it's just everything.
Everybody.
And what about now? You think about like the divisiveness. Now they're just like, oh, either you're this or you're against it. You know what I'm saying?
The policies that we're seeing today, right? The guidelines, they are looking to divide us, right? It's kind of like divide and conquer. Right? They don't want the people to have the power anymore. It's like the rich elitists are the ones that want to tell us, how we should talk, what we should say, what we need to eat, how our kids are going to be taught in school, what they're going to learn and what they're not going to learn. It's not what it's about.
It's easier to control 10 people than 2,000 people.
Exactly. And so I think ultimately, right, we need to get it back, right? We the people. We must remember our country is for the people and by the people. And we only, our Constitution says consent of the governed, right? If we don't like what's going on, we got to change it. And right now I'm here to tell you, a lot of people across the state of Colorado are ready for a change. They're ready for a change.
How do we change it? What are some of your points that you think that should be like a must, that should be changed?
Well, first of all, we got to get Governor Polis out of there, right? So we change him by replacing him with me, right? Someone that truly understands how to govern. Someone that has real experience about the importance of small business, crime in the communities, homelessness, drug addiction. I can tell you one of the biggest issues that I'm going to tackle is crime. I'm going to be tough on crime. We can't be soft on crime. When people are taking other people's properties or they're hurting other people, we must send them a strong message that you can't be doing that. We're number one in the country for auto thefts here in the state of Colorado.
Yeah,
number one in the country, right? Basically, what I've been hearing is that every day in Colorado, 100 vehicles are being stolen across the entire state.
Really?
100. And it's because we don't prosecute car thieves anymore, right? We give them now kind of like a little citation. It's like a speeding ticket.
Slap on the wrist and you're good.
Yeah, it's like a little speeding ticket, right? It's like here's your ticket. Show up to court in 6 weeks or 8 weeks. They're not going to show up, right? And so they just keep doing this. And now there's other rings. There's actually coordinated efforts to steal people's cars because they know they're not really going to get in trouble. So crime. When you look at finally just yesterday, the legislature pulled back on the fentanyl, right? It used to be you could have up to 4 grams and not get arrested. Well, because they realized what it was doing to the homelessness and what was going on downtown Denver, now they reduced it back to 1. So you have 1 gram or less, you know what? You're not going to get in trouble. You get over 1 gram, now you're going to be arrested again.
And I don't know if you know some of the stats on it. Who was the most of the users? Like you're saying, the homelessness, was that big of the big people getting in trouble for it, or was it just everywhere?
No, everybody. Look, fentanyl is causing 4 deaths every day in the state of Colorado. 4 Coloradans are dying every day from fentanyl. And these are high schoolers sometimes. These are 14-year-olds, 16-year-olds in school. Fentanyl is one of the cheapest drug that you can buy. It's $30, $40 a pill, okay? And supposedly it's supposed to give you this great rush. But what I'm being told, one time in trying it, and you're hooked, okay? So, drugs don't discriminate. People are using it all over the place.
Drugs don't have feelings. They'll take it.
Right?
They'll take you. Yeah.
Like another thing, since we're talking about drugs, because I know marijuana is it's a big issue still.
Right.
Even though it's just it's been legalized for a while.
Right.
What are your views on it?
Well, I can tell you this: I didn't vote for marijuana when they first came on board. I think it is a gateway drug. I'm really concerned about who's using it and the amount that they're using. But it's the law here in Colorado. It's a law, right? But when you look at it, I really believe that we need to relabel how we call marijuana. Think about it for a minute. What do we call it? When we talk about marijuana, what do we say it is?
It's weed.
Medicinal.
Okay, but we call it recreational, right?
Yeah.
It's recreational marijuana, right?
Recreational sounds like you're gonna
go to the park
and go play some basketball or something.
Exactly. And that's what the kids think, right? It's recreation. We need to call it what it is. It's retail, right? You got to go to the store. Now, here's the other thing. Because we've legalized it, we have a lot of illegal grows in the state of Colorado, specifically out in rural Colorado. Okay, so we have the cartel. We have the black market that's here. Okay, so everybody thinks, well, we legalized it. We're going to get rid of the black market. No, you didn't get rid of anything, right? And so what we're doing, and the one thing that I'm really concerned about is water. The water in Colorado, okay? Growing marijuana, it's one of the plants that requires the most water to keep it alive, okay? And so, while I don't support it, personally, it is part of the industry that we have here in Colorado, and they pay a lot of taxes.
You think that's a big thing why they kind of became legal, the taxes?
Yeah, that's exactly why they approved it, right? They were chasing the money. They weren't thinking about the long-term effects. And even now people can't figure out where's all that marijuana money going, that the state's collecting. Did you know it's a cash business? If you sell marijuana, you can't have a bank account. You can't put any of that money in a bank. Why? Because it's still illegal at the federal level.
Federally.
Right. And where do the banks get their charters from? The federal government.
So they have a stash in their couch?
Oh, what they're doing with it.
It's hard to keep track of.
Yeah, that's why no one knows clearly, right, how much money is being generated by it.
So then it kind of contradicts what they were trying to do. They're trying to get tax money from it, but then if it's not actually registered with everything, then how do they know how much was there?
There's two sets of books, right? There's really no way to track how much got sold, right? And so there's two sets of books, right? One that they say, here's what we sold, right? And this is what we're going to give you, the state. But we don't know whether that's exactly what they sold or not.
In reality, they
kind of like on the honor system.
Yeah, exactly. And so, when it comes to marijuana, look, we got to be careful because it is impacting our kids. And even now people are driving under the influence of marijuana. I had a buddy of mine. He's probably 65, and he just got in a car accident on this past Saturday.
Really?
And the guy was under the influence of marijuana.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and you guys know, look, marijuana stays in your system for up to 12 days.
At least, yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of these people are having a hard time getting jobs because they can't pass the drug test. I mean, think about it. Bus drivers, right? People driving RTD buses, or if you're working with heavy equipment in the construction industry, we don't want anybody to be under the influence of marijuana. We want them to be doing their jobs and stay focused, right?
With stuff like that, because then I guess not to the level, but smoking and tobacco and stuff, that thing kind of, it relaxes, it alters your state of mind.
Yeah.
So, and then people still work like that, like driving machinery and stuff in the construction.
Yeah.
So do you think that should be maybe?
Look, people need to make good decisions, right? I mean, we can't control what people decide, but we can hold them accountable to the fullest extent of the law if they harm somebody, right?
Yeah.
We can't just say, well, he was under the influence of marijuana, so we should give him a break. They decided to make a bad decision, right? We got to hold them accountable for those bad decisions. We're not going to tell them what they can and can't do, but if you get caught doing something and it hurts somebody, then we're going to hold you accountable.
That's one of the biggest things I feel like right now. People aren't being held accountable for what they're doing. Like for if it goes from to the civilian to the all the way through, all the way up the food chain, people are not being held accountable.
They're not. And our society has shifted, right? The way the younger generation's thinking, the way corporate America is thinking. I mean, now you can't even say something that if you say something that your boss doesn't like, you can get fired, right? What happened to the First Amendment? What happened to freedom of speech?
Yeah, it's gone.
Yeah.
And then now that you just said that, so what's your take on the media? Because the media, they get it and then they put out what benefits them. So
look, the media no longer is really reporting what it should, right? Now it's kind of like an opinion piece. It's no longer about the facts, right? True journalism, and you guys remember this, right? The 5 W's. Right? That's true journalism. Who, what, where, and why, and how. Right?
Yes.
Report that.
Yeah.
Let us decide. right?
Just give me the facts and then let me do my own research too. Like
exactly, right? Instead, they'll, like right now, right? They always start with something negative about me. Right? Before they mention my name, but this is the guy that did this. This is the guy that said this. It's like,
if it bleeds, it leads. That's right? What it is.
Right? Exactly. So the media, I want to tell you, it's about half-truths. It is so hard today to find the real truth because they're not going to give it to you. Right? You got to connect. It's like a jigsaw puzzle. Where do I find the other half of the truth, or where do I find more of the truth? And you got to go out there and look for it.
The problem with people now, it's just they're lazy. So it's just like they just see a headline, Lopez did this, or this person did this. And they don't read the whole article, and they're just like, and then they get on their social media. It's so easy, and then they just start bashing.
Exactly. And what we need to do is remember, we're brothers and sisters. We're all created under the same creator. We all bleed red. I don't care what you believe, right? But we are brothers and sisters. And so what we need to do is respect each other, right? That doesn't mean we got to agree with each other. Just respect each other. Look, I have brothers and I have a sister, right? We disagree, we get mad at each other. But at the end of the day, we still love each other, right? We don't call each other bad names and then not talk to each other for years, or look at each other and say, oh, you're a monster. We got to get back to understanding, look, it's okay to disagree. Let's agree to disagree, but that doesn't make us bad people.
There's a saying that I've heard before. It says if two people are in a room and they both think alike, one of them's extra. Like you need people to have different.
Challenge.
You need people to be like, hey, we should try this or we should do this. Because if you think the same, then it's like it's just a down spiral.
Well, that's what they call it. Right? They equate a lot of people with sheep or lemmings. Right? A lot of people say, well, it's a bunch of sheep. What does that mean? It's like they just follow each other. Right? They really don't know any better, right? And lemmings, same thing, and the lemmings, lemmings will drown themselves, and the rest of the lemmings will follow them into the ocean, right? Without even thinking. And so this is what we need to do, right?
Is that happening today? Yeah. Like if you kind of see it like in perspective, is that stuff happening today? Everyone's just following the crowd because nobody wants to stand up and say anything.
Yeah, and this happened when the whole so-called pandemic occurred, right? All of a sudden overnight, everybody was wearing a mask. Even though a lot of people are telling those masks don't help, they don't stop the virus. The virus is so small, it's going to go right through your mask. And I tell people, and science has proven this, right? So this is not an option.
Oh, yeah, it has.
Science has shown.
Plenty of research. Research it up, guys. Yeah.
Exactly. So I tell people, look, imagine for a minute, you take a handful of BBs and you throw them through a chain link fence. How many of those BBs are going to go through, right?
99% of them.
And that's exactly what the mask does, right? The particles are so small, that the interweaving of the fabric is still big enough for these things to go right through. And think about it. If, in fact, it really stopped the virus, then you're wearing an entire mask full of the virus itself. And they don't tell us how to get rid of it, right? They don't even tell you to wash it. Just keep wearing it.
Just keep wearing it, put it back in your pocket.
Most of the people, they would get it, they go to the store, they hang it in their car, and they have that same mask for a couple of weeks.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's awesome.
Until it falls apart.
I like how you just brought up the topic of the so-called pandemic. If you were governor during that time, how would Colorado? Would it look different than what it went through?
It would have looked completely different.
Because you were part of the director of the small business,
right?
And I'm sure small businesses got crushed.
Oh yeah,
demolished.
Look, like I told you, I'm the former director of the United States Small Business Administration. There were 685,000 small businesses that he shut down overnight with a stroke of a pen, and 40% of them are gone. They're just gone. So when he tells you he was saving lives, he was really destroying families. Because small business owners borrow their money from their equity of their home, or they use all their savings, or they borrow from friends and family because they want to live that dream. They cannot afford to be shut down for 30 days or 60 days at all because their bills don't stop. They still have to pay, their space. They still have to pay employees. They still have to do all kinds of things. And being a small business owner does not mean that you're rich. A lot of people think, oh, you're a small business owner, you must have a lot of money. No, that's not true. What it means is that they work a lot of hours.
Right? A lot less time.
Right. They're trying to build something so that at some point They can either sell the company or they've saved enough money that they can actually retire comfortably. But they want to be in control of their own destiny. And I'm here to tell you, as a small business owner, my wife and I, we've been small business owners for over 20 years. I used to have a little bar restaurant.
Okay.
I know how tough it is, right, to make money in a restaurant. The margin is about 4 to 5%. So for every dollar that someone gives you, you can hope you can keep 4 to 5 pennies.
You got a nickel.
Yeah, from that dollar, right? Because you got to pay your employees, you got to buy the food, you got to buy the liquor, you got to buy insurance, you got to buy all this other stuff. So a lot of people think, well, you must be rich. No, it's just a matter of volume, right? The more you sell, the more nickels you can save, and those types of things. But you're in control, right? As to how many of those nickels you can actually make.
Yeah.
Versus someone capping you and saying, okay, I'm only going to give you so much. Show up at 8, go home at 5. And that's a trade-off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what would have been a better way, you think, to handle the pandemic? Like maybe restrict some stuff?
Well, I never would have shut down the state. Never would have shut it down. And the reason being is because, look, what happened in Denver was not happening in Cortez or Durango, right? What was happening in Denver was not happening in Lamar. And so when you look at the totality of this thing, were there things we should have been concerned with? Yeah. I'm here to tell you, I would not have panicked. The governor panicked because he didn't know what to do. So he panicked and he hid behind Fauci. He said, well, we're going to follow the science. Fauci says we got to follow the science. So let's follow the science.
Just pretty much almost like every other, pretty much every governor pretty much did,
there
right?
was the Republican governors that never shut down, right? South Dakota never shut down. Florida shut down for a little bit, but never
Texas.
Completely, right?
Mm-hmm.
Texas. So they were monitoring, they were watching this, right? And if you follow the science for about the first 6 months, the only people that were dying were 75 years and older. And they had underlying conditions. So people in high school, in the elementaries, the science showed they're not going to get impacted by this, right? Yet we shut down all the schools, and then when we opened them, we had to have them wear masks. So they never really followed the science. I'm going to govern with a steady and measured hand. I'm not going to have knee-jerk reactions when it comes to passing laws or doing executive orders. Because when you do that, you're basically flying around like a kite. The wind's pushing you, and that type of stuff. That's not who Greg Lopez is.
Do you think that has to do something with like your background in the military? Just being more just calm, cool, and collected?
It's a combination, growing up in humble beginnings, right? We never had enough money to do anything crazy, right? So we always were very prudent how much money we spent, right? I was in the military, so I learned discipline, right? Learn how to look into the future. Look how things really work, right? Don't just have a knee-jerk reaction. Think about it. In times of crisis, right? The people that survive are the ones that slow down and look at what they really need to do, right? Those that don't survive are the ones that go running around like crazy, trying to get all kinds of stuff.
So the saying, like running with like a chicken with his head cut off.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
Think about it, right? There were people that were going to the grocery store to buy all the toilet paper that they could. Remember? It's you couldn't find toilet paper. It's like, you guys need to slow down, man.
They bring it out and then like everybody attacks the toilet paper just to get something.
Right. So that was a panic, right? It's like, really? Of all the things you're going to go after is toilet paper,
yeah.
Instead of other things. So, I think it's a combination. The Lord's given me this personality that says, look, don't panic, review everything, make good informed decisions. When my wife, Lisa, of 34 years, when we were a young couple and we wanted to save money, we always asked this question: is it a need or a want? If we wanted to get something, we'd ask, is that a need or is that a want? Right? And even though there were times where we said, yeah, that's a want, right? That's okay as long as you know why you're spending it, right? If it's not a need, or if it is a need, then focus on that. It'd be simple things like, okay, we need a couch and we're saving for a couch, right? But we want to go to a concert. Okay, so which one do you want? Right? What's really going to be the important thing?
Do you want to go to the concert and sit on the ground for a couple months,
right?
Or something,
Exactly, right? Mm-hmm. So, is it a need or a want, right? And so that's what I'm saying about having a knee-jerk reaction. You got to ask yourself those questions to make good, informed decisions.
Do you think kind of like the government also kind of made like a a knee-jerk decision or on like stimulus stuff, just handing stuff out to people?
Yeah. Look, you know what? They would, first of all, they created the problem, right? Remember, who shut down the country? You know, the elected officials, right? And people were like, hey, we're going to do this. So they shut down the economy. Now, government never makes money. Government takes money. Think about that for a minute. Yeah, government never makes a single dime. They take money away from us, right? So when they're going to spend more money, it doesn't come out of the sky. It comes out of our taxes, right? And we always have to be paying for it. So yes, it was a knee-jerk reaction. They created the problem, and then when they realized we're creating problems, here's what they tell you. We created the problem, and we're going to fix it, but we need more money. So, well, why did you create the problem to begin with?
And where do they get more money?
Right? Yeah, they just print it. Because the federal government is the only government that can print money, you know? And so you got the Federal Reserve, and you got, you know, they're just throwing money into the market. And that's why we have inflation. Today, that's why we have inflation. Because of all the stimulus checks that got sent out there, right? There's too much money circulating out in the market, and there's not enough products and services being produced. And so right now, inflation is at 8.5%. That was from a year ago. What does that mean? That means everything's costing you 8 cents more. Now, I don't know of anybody that got an 8.5% raise.
Especially coming out of the pandemic,
right?
Like, yeah. People are just trying to get jobs
some people are just happy that they got jobs.
Exactly.
It's like, pretty sure you're not going to still be like, I'll take this job, but you know, I was making 15, I want 20. Yeah. They're going to be like, hey.
I mean, talk to the ladies out there, right? The ones that do the shopping. What it costs to buy a package of bacon. You know, how much those prices have gone up. You know, these gas prices, everything gets delivered by truck. Everything. Every single item that we buy gets delivered by truck, right? Mm-hmm. And so whether it's diesel or regular gasoline, the prices has gone up. They're not going to eat it. They're going to push it down to the consumer.
Yeah, the inflation stuff is going through the roof. Do you think it can get... How do we control that? Do you think there can get a point to... Or can we control it? Like... was it Venezuela? When you have $10. Just kidding. Now you don't got 10. You got $4 now.
No, you know what? I think. Look, the market is going to have to correct itself. Right? It's capitalism. But here in Colorado, as governor, what I'm going to do is I'm going to encourage people to buy Colorado. Right? Buy from ranchers. Buy from farmers. Go to the farmer markets. Right?
And it's even healthier too.
Yeah. Let's try to keep this within the boundaries of our state. Right? Let's help each other. And so I'm going to be talking to the oil and gas industry about producing more gas for the state of Colorado. Not producing more gas to send out to Texas or Florida or anywhere else. Keep the gas here in Colorado. And if we as a state have to buy the excess gas to bring the price down, let's do that, right? Because right now the price of gas is hurting the poor. It's hurting single moms. It's hurting people that are really struggling just to make ends meet. It's hurting rural Colorado. You know, that is really hurting rural Colorado because they drive 30 minutes to go to the grocery store, not 5. You know, they take 20 minutes to take their kids to school, not 7. You know, so their gas prices are really impacting.
Yeah, that's pretty. I mean, it's getting out of hand. In my opinion, it's getting a little bit out of hand. But then kind of too with the stimulus I was telling you, like. And the people getting unemployment, stimulus, and all that stuff, completely understandable. People do need help, but for how long?
Well, that's just it, right? I mean, look, we got to have a safety net, right? But we can't keep giving it out there. I would say, you know what? There's so many unemployment. There's so many opportunities right now for jobs. You go anywhere, right? And you see a help wanted sign, right? I think, you know, the most that anybody should get, it'd be the 13, 16 weeks. You know, but you must be looking for work. This is not, you get to sit at home, play games, or watch movies for 13 weeks. You know, we got to get people to understand, government is not here to solve your problem. Government's here to make sure that the most needed, the most vulnerable are being helped. And if you, for some reason, lost your job, yeah, you know, businesses are the ones that are paying the unemployment insurance. It's not government, right? It's small business. And so we need to understand that, you know what, we got to get people back into the workforce. That's where they get their dignity. That's where they feel value because they're providing for themselves. And so we got to stop these handouts and these entitlements, right? People need to understand, hey, you're not entitled to anything. When you say I'm entitled to something, no, you're not entitled to anything. You got to work for it, right? Yeah, or earn it. Yeah.
And then also with like the food stamps, there's people, I personally know people, they literally live on food stamps their whole life, most of their life. So it's like we said, for how long? There should be like a metric, some sort of metric, like unemployment. Okay, you got what is it, 6 months? Okay, I feel like it should be something like that.
Yeah.
You got it for 6 months, cool. We're not going to be able to help you for the next 2 years because you got it for 6 months already.
The budget for the state of Colorado is $40 billion for the state of Colorado. And I'm here to tell you 40% of that is fraud, waste, and abuse. Because it's so easy to spend other people's money. Right?
And it's nicer too when you got to take money out of your own wallet. You're like, do I really need that?
Yeah, exactly. And so, you got bureaucrats, and the most powerful people in government are not the elected officials. The most powerful people in government are the bureaucrats, the ones that are setting the rules, the ones that are filling out the paperwork, the ones that are telling families, don't worry about it. Right? We're going to increase your food stamps. Don't worry about it. Have another child. You'll get more money, right? Don't get another job, because if you get another job, then you're no longer going to be able to qualify. Those are the most powerful people. But we need to make sure that we shrink government and only help those that truly, truly need it.
Because like doing something like that, how do you control it? I guess because it's hard. It's tough.
President Clinton controlled it when he was president. How did he control it? He said, look, if you're on welfare, you must be looking for a job, or you better be received training. You better be going to a trade school. You better be learning something, because we're going to cut you off, right? And slowly, right? Instead of saying tomorrow you're off the program, you know what? After 3 weeks or a month, instead of getting 100%, you're going to get 80%. So the longer it takes for you to find a job, the less and less you're getting, right? That's an incentive, right? If you know that, hey, my check's going to get smaller and smaller and smaller. So if I want to live my quality of life that I believe I should have, then I got to go out there and complement what I'm getting, right? Getting people back to work. That's what it's all about,
Would you try to implement that with something here? Because it's good. Obviously, if people are not getting a job, it's because they're maybe because they're not looking for a job, but then they're not educated enough. So maybe hey, we'll keep helping you, but you got to be doing something.
Exactly.
Some sort of training. You're going to school or something.
Well, let me tell you this. Our public school systems are failing our kids. They're not teaching our kids anymore. I was just heard the other day that in Denver, third graders can't even read at the third grade level. Third graders.
Why do you think that's happening?
Because they're not teaching them, right? They're talking about all this feelings. How do you feel, right? They're not giving homework. They're not forcing them to read books. It's all about how do you feel today? It's all this feelingness stuff, right? The numbers show this. Fourth graders, okay? 60% of our fourth graders in the state of Colorado cannot read at the fourth grade level. What does that mean? 6 out of every 10 fourth graders cannot read at the fourth grade level. 50% of them can't do math at the fourth grade level. So 5 out of 10 fourth graders can't do their additions and divisions at the fourth grade level. And yet none of them are held back. Fourth graders become fifth graders become sixth graders, and we're crippling them because all they want to do is pass these kids through. And so we do have generations where they're feeling that they can't be successful, and they feel a little embarrassed and they feel a little ashamed because they're being passed, and the next teacher thinks they know how to do math, they know how to read, they know how to do this stuff, and truly they're not. And so we need to make sure that we start teaching our kids, because if we want a good communities, good solid communities, our kids need to be able to understand how to provide for themselves.
Do you think
I was going to say one thing that could also affect younger kids is when they went after the pandemic reopened or whatever, they started to go back to school with masks, but then a lot of them couldn't see the words coming out of the teacher's mouth. They couldn't form their the sounds and syllables, so that could have also...
Of course, look, facial expression, right? This is how you learn, right? You mimic, right? Think about it. We all learn by watching others, right? On what you should do, what you shouldn't do, along with instruction. And with the mask, we took a huge component out of that learning process. The mental health issues that our kids are struggling with, suicide in the high school level is through the ceiling because you got depression, anxiety, isolation, and all this because this so-called COVID, right? And even when they brought up the vaccine and they were saying this is going to help, people are still getting sick. Even today, people are still getting sick, right? Look, we got to make good informed decisions. I am a strong believer as a governor. I'm going to let the people decide what they believe is in the best interest of their families, their business, and their friends. We'll caution them. We'll give you, hey, just be careful. We're not going to put restrictions and mandates. Under the Lopez administration, we will never do that.
Kind of going back to what we were talking about, the school with the kids and the teaching and all that stuff. Do you think also us as parents, because I'm a parent, us as parents also are failing our kids? Because I feel like a lot of parents just want to throw them to the school and then it's a daycare. Right. And then they complain that their kids aren't learning anything. But then say if the school's like, okay, you want a better school? Because this is public school, it's from the government. You want a better school? You can pay for school, but then they don't want to pay either. And then another thing too, that maybe the wages might be, they're not educated enough. Maybe the teachers,
right?
Like you're saying, they're just there for a paycheck and then just go ahead and pass them on to the next grade. Yeah. They don't want the backlash.
I think there is a combination of that, right? Parents don't get involved in the schools because they allow teachers, right? They bought into this narrative that the teachers are doing the right thing. Teachers are teaching.
They know best.
Exactly, right? If there's one thing that came out of this COVID thing is that people started to realize, wait a minute, what are you teaching my fourth grader? What are you teaching my eighth grader? I don't believe in that. So at least they got to look into it. But parents must get involved in the education of their kids. The most precious gift that a parent can give their child is a good education. And that includes just common sense, right? Along with book smarts. So requiring homework, right? Being involved in the schools and saying, what you are teaching my child? What's he going to learn in the fourth grade? How is he going to get better for the fifth grade? So when it comes to public schools, as governor, I'm going to bring school vouchers into the state of Colorado, which means the money that we set aside for a child will follow the child. So you as a parent, you get to decide whether you want them to go to the public school, you want them to go to the private school, you want them to go to a religious school. Wherever you believe your child will get the best education, that money will follow that child. So when you say, well, the tuition is $9,000, okay, well, we're going to give you that $8,200 and some odd dollars. We're going to give it to the institution. You just got to make the difference, right? Again, helping people make sure that their children are not stuck in a public school system that's failing them.
It's good. It's a good idea like that I'm listening to you say. But the problem I see with people, because I see it all the time, like places that are more poor and stuff, they'll see that it's like tax season's coming through, so they'll be like, they're going to give you $6,000 back,
Right.
They should be like, okay, well, you owe $20,000 on your car. We're just going to get those $6,000 and we're going to push it to your car. Right. And the people are like, no, give me that money.
Right.
And it's like the same thing. Like, oh, here's $8,000 for your kid. They'll be like, no, give it to me and I'll pay it.
Right.
And they never will.
Happen.
Yeah, and they never will. Yeah, that's the problem I see right away. People right away.
No.
The green lights are like, hey, free money, let's get
trust
it.
Me. We're going to make sure that the parents don't touch the money, right? It's going to go to the school. So they get to say, hey, I want my child to go to this school. Okay, right? Enroll them and we'll funnel the money to that institution. Because you're absolutely right. Look, you put money in somebody's hand, you just have no idea what they're going to do with it, right? So yeah, we're going to make sure that it goes to the education of our kids. That's the important thing. Look, when we educate our younger generation, and we encourage our young men and women to have dreams that they can achieve, right? To be proud of themselves. Here's what's going to happen. We're going to have less crime. The population in the prison system is going to go down, because I'm here to tell you 80% of the population in the prison systems don't have a high school diploma. They don't.
Their education's
exactly, right? And so when we start making that shift, it's going to take a while, but we will be able to come back, and have people truly believe that they can live that American dream or that Colorado dream?
I think it all starts with the education. This morning I was listening to a podcast, and they're talking about a young kid. By the time he's 18, he's heard over like 600 times more the no or negative stuff towards them.
Yep.
That's in like a more poor home.
Yep.
And as it gets like increases, once they're like the top 3% earners or whatever, those they hear it, positive stuff and yes, like 100 times. Like it's completely opposite.
Right. Look, as a community, right? Our communities, we don't have communities anymore. You know, we have broken families. We got to fix that as well. You know, when a child is raised by a mom and a dad, the percentage of them not living in poverty goes up by 60%. Okay, because they see a strong family structure, right? They're not only guided by their mom, but they're also guided by dad. Right? The disciplinary ones, right? To say, hey, you're not going to do this, right? You're going to go apologize. You're going to do it right? You're going to help me in the yard. You're going to work with me, right? And when you have broken families, you don't have those role models. What we need to do is we need to understand that we all have a role to play. Whether we have kids or don't have kids, we should always be talking to our nieces, our nephews, and guiding them and sharing them, you know what, don't do that. You know, when I grew up, didn't matter whether it was my dad or mom that caught me doing something wrong. If it was an adult, I was getting in trouble, right? They would say, don't do that, right? They would stop you, you know, quit throwing rocks at the windows or quit hitting the baseball over here, right? They would guide you through this. We need to do that again, right? We need to help everyone understand the importance of accountability and being responsible for your actions. You know, and if you do break a window, guess who's going to go fix it? Right? Or maybe you're going to have to take your allowance and pay for it. Right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Those types of things.
Yeah, now when you're saying that, now I just picture people, they see something's going on, they just flip their phone out, let's record.
Exactly, right? Let's just do a video.
Oh, you're laughing. Because that's what people want to do, you know, then they put it up on Facebook or show it, you know, it's funny.
Yep.
And stuff. It's pretty crazy how stuff's been going.
So we were talking earlier before we started about the immigration of what's going on now, because it's not just people, because people like to think that immigration, it's just Mexicans coming over. No, but it's I think you were saying it's like 40% is just Mexicans, but then the other percentage is from everywhere else.
Yeah, it's coming from other countries.
So how's one way that we can control it?
Look, a lot of people don't even know this. Okay. America, we allow over 1.1 million people to come in here every single year, legally. We do more than any other country across the world. So we recognize we are a land of immigrants. We just want people to do it correctly, right? And so I think what we need to do is make sure that not only do we bring people in correctly from the southern border, but make sure that they're not being used like mules, right? They're not being abused by the cartel or los coyotes,
or
right?
the sex trafficking and all
exactly,
that.
Right? That they're being treated correctly, right? And so, you know, a lot of people say, well, Greg, you know, it's wrong to put a wall. We've always had a wall. It was an invisible wall. They knew exactly when they were in Mexico and exactly when they were in the United States, right? Now they're abusing that privilege. And now we're escorting them, right? Instead of really helping them make sure that they have a job, make sure that they're coming here for the right reasons, right? Why not help find out why Mexico can't create their own economy over there, right? Why aren't they creating jobs over there? And we know the reason. It's because it's corrupt, right? Their government is corrupt. You know, everywhere you go, right? You got to make sure that you're taking care of somebody, right? La mordida. You guys have heard of that?
Oh, plenty of times, yeah.
You know, and again, you know, we got to help those countries be more successful by either giving them, you know, the right information and knowledge on how to build their economy. Because a lot of people are just coming in here because they want to have a better life. It's not that they really want to live in America. They just know that if they stay in Mexico, they're not going to be able to provide for their families. And this is what it's all about.
But a lot of the people also like immigrating, like they're coming from the Mexican border,
right?
But they're not all Mexican.
No. They're coming from Haiti. They're coming from other countries. Why? Because they know that border is very porous, right? We're not necessarily telling anybody you can't come in here, right? They're just coming, right? And so this is where we're not a nation anymore when we don't have borders. When our borders are open, you know, we really can't control, you know, how many people are coming in. Because look at the impact that it just has, right? Transportation corridors, the food supply, housing, clothing, our educational system. You know, right now, if you go to Aurora, I think they have like 18 different languages that they're trying to teach within the school district, right? Because you have a lot of kids from a lot of different countries.
I heard it was over 20, honestly, about that. This is crazy.
It is crazy.
I didn't think about that. I mean, there would be that much, you know.
Yeah.
So like when, like still like on immigration, like what would you do with like the people that are already here? That like because a lot of them like they were a lot younger when they came over here, so they didn't have like a choice.
They've been over here for like 15, 20 years, some of them.
Look, you know, you're talking about the DACA, right? The DACA kids, or they were little when their parents brought them. Okay. Well, first of all, we first must recognize that yes, they had no choice, but their parents did. Their parents made a conscious decision. They knew exactly that they were breaking the law, right? They were taking a risk, and I don't blame them. You know, I don't blame them for taking a risk, but they must become citizens correctly, right? I'm not interested in just rallying everybody up and sending them back, right? If you're here and you got a job and you're providing and you're staying out of trouble, then you know what? Let's work on making you a citizen, okay? Or if you don't want to be a citizen, let's make sure we work on giving you the right work permits so you don't have to be looking over your shoulder. But if you create a crime, if you start selling drugs, if you start hurting people, you're out of here. I don't care who you are, right? Because we have to separate the good from the bad, okay? And there are bad in every situation. Now, as it pertains to the DACA kids, imagine this for a minute. Imagine if we told them, you know what, specifically those that are in school, you get a high school diploma, right? You stay in school, you graduate. Imagine as you're crossing the stage, you're also getting your citizenship. Right?
Yeah.
So you take your SAT, you take your citizen exam, right? You pass both, you're going to be a citizen by the time you walk across that stage. Not only did you get your diploma, but now you're a citizen. But that doesn't apply to your family, okay? Now as a citizen, you need to help them. You know, your mom, your dad, your grandpa, your tios, your tias, whatever. But we do have to have immigration reform. It shouldn't take 15 years to become a citizen. Right? Mm-hmm. We need to make sure that we have a process by which if people want to become citizens, they can. You know, have you guys ever heard of the Red Card program? The Red Card.
Red Card? No, I haven't.
So there's a program that was introduced years ago by Newt Gingrich, and actually he wasn't vice president yet, but he was Senator Pence. This is a Red Card, okay? And this is what it was designed to do. So people that want to come into work, right? We would have placement agencies at the border, right? So you would go to this placement agency. You would say, hey, I want to work in construction. We're like, okay, what do you do? Right? Yeah. I can do painting, I can do drywall, or you know what? I need to learn. They would match you up with a company.
So it's kind of like the workforce kind of.
Exactly, right? They would match you up with a company. The company would then sponsor you. Right? They're responsible to making sure that you stay out of trouble, right? Making sure that you have a paycheck and all those types of things. But at least we know who's in the country, right? And if they should leave, the sponsor notifies the government, hey, they left. Okay, you know what? We got to find these people, right? Because they came here to work, right? There's got to be rules. There's got to be processes, you know? And it's not going to be over the top. We just want to make sure that we're taking care of everybody.
The biggest thing that I see is like we're saying, government, they like money. They like take money. Mm-hmm. So it's like those people, they've already, say they're here 10 years or whatever, maybe not just under DACA. They're here working. Instead of, you don't think, I'm just looking at it from like outside perspective, you don't think it'd be better give them some sort of work permit so that way they can fill out taxes and get tax money, because a lot of them just get paid under the table, you know.
Well,
so there's no tax money on that.
Yeah, but let me ask you this: most Americans pay taxes, right?
Most, yeah.
Say 40%. I mean, the number is 40%.
Yeah.
Okay. Like me, I pay taxes. I get nothing from the government. Nothing.
Yeah.
Right. It's not like if you pay taxes, you should get something back. Why?
It's It's a contribution to society.
Right, it's to help, right, keep the community safe, right, for police officers,
police,
right?
firemen,
for the justice system, right? Why should we expect something back? And this is where I ask people, say, just because you pay something doesn't mean it's a quid pro quo, right? You got to look at why am I paying taxes and what are they doing with my tax money, right? And so when you say, hey, well, you know what, wouldn't you want them to pay taxes? Well, of course we do, but they shouldn't expect food stamps. They shouldn't expect all this other stuff, right? They should be helping all of us, as a community to be surviving and thriving. And so these are some of the things, discussions that we have to have, right? Because a lot of times they say, well, we pay taxes. Well, but you're here illegally. So let's think about that, right? So would you rather pay taxes and be here illegally, or would you rather us, send you back because you are illegal? One of the things a lot of people say, hey, Greg, even if you wanted to make people citizens, how would you do it? How would you do it, right? Would you send them to Mexico and have them start over? And the answer is no. We don't have to send them to Mexico. Do you know we have sovereign territory in the state of Colorado? And what sovereign territory means is that there's lands that the federal government does not control at all. The federal laws don't apply there. These are reservations. These are the Native American reservations. We have 2 reservations in the state of Colorado, the Mountain Ute and the Southern Ute. And they're over there in the Four Corner area, right? So imagine for a minute if we asked illegals, go to the reservation, we're going to process you back into Colorado, and you're going to have the work permit. You're going to have all this stuff, right? But we're meeting the guidelines because in the reservations, none of the federal laws apply.
But how do the people in the reservations feel about that? Just have
think about it
another couple 10,000 people just come in.
Well, think about it. Have you been to the reservations?
I haven't.
Okay. No. They're not very wealthy. Okay. Because there is no federal programs in there. But if we said, hey, look, as an agreement, we have to write this down, right? We're going to build apartment complexes in here. We're going to put water. We're going to put sewer. We're going to put all this, right? Because once we process people in, it's yours. It belongs to you. We left, $89 billion of military equipment in Afghanistan?
Quite a bit.
It's ridiculous.
Right?
Yeah.
So what if we helped, right, the economy of the reservations, right? If you haven't been to the reservations, they still live in these little huts without doors, without windows, dirt floors. It is truly a lot of third world country.
How would a process like that go? Because like we said before, the money's got to come from somewhere.
Well, think about it.
What do you think, people would back you on that, to do something like that?
Look, it's a discussion, right? We got to think outside the box, right? We got a problem, right? I'm a problem solver.
Let's look for solutions instead of problems.
Look, I'm not a problem observer, right? So if there's a problem, let's throw some solutions on the table. Let's kick it around, right? If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But let's have that conversation. Let's not just close our eyes and hope it goes away, because it's not. So we must start having difficult conversations about truly what's happening in our country and what's going on in the lives of our communities and our families. We must have difficult conversations, but we must have compassion and empathy, right? We got to remember, these are people. They're not numbers. These are individuals, and they matter.
Yeah, for sure.
So with all that being said, what makes Greg Lopez different from other people who are running, or different from our current governor, different from like Heidi?
Well, I can tell you this, look, and maybe it's not their fault, 100%, because they grew up in a certain lifestyle, right? Our current governor, some people will say he's worth $600 million, others will say he's worth $300 million.
It's a lot of zeros either way, huh?
Exactly, right? He spent $23 million of his own money to become governor. And we've seen, he really doesn't understand me and you. He could care less about us, right? Specifically rural Colorado. He's got no emotional intelligence. He looks at things, he uses the term science, right? He uses numbers. He forgets that all those numbers have people attached to them, right? He thinks it's like an accounting spreadsheet. All I got to do is balance it, right? That's not what it's about. And so what makes me different is I don't forget where I come from, And, even Heidi, Heidi is very successful, which is great. That's what the American dream is all about. but you gotta be able to connect with people. You gotta be able to go wherever it is that people are struggling, right? Look, you ask me if I'm around, you say, hey, Greg, can you help me dig a ditch? Sure I can, right? I'm not all that in a bag of chips, man. I don't forget where I come from. There's nothing that I would ask someone to do that I would not do, okay? And this is the other things is that we must, again, remember that I'm working for you. You're my boss. Right now, the governor believes he is our boss. He tells us what we should be doing. And that it should be the other way around, And so if you want someone that truly understands that people matter and that this is about our individual freedoms and liberties and our right to live the dream the way we want to live it, then you need to vote for Greg Lopez. If you like what's going on right now, then maybe you should vote for the same person. But I ask people all the time, is your quality of life better today than it was 4 years ago? And then ask yourself, if it's not, what do we need to change? Because we either make a change or we get more of the same. Because we know exactly what he's trying to do. And he's trying to turn Colorado into California. Everything that's happening in Colorado today is coming from California. So, I tell the governor when I'm speaking, if he wants to live in California, just move to California, right? Leave us alone. Colorado is a state that really needs to be run by the people, not a powerful, rich elitist.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Where can people find some more of your stuff?
Yeah, like I said, go to Lopez2022.com. They can go to my website, learn more about me. Follow us on Facebook. Always ask around as to, hey, is Greg going to be speaking in our community? Invite us out, right? We'll come out. If my schedule allows, I'll come out and talk to people. Because, again, it's important for me to keep my hand on the pulse of the community, And this is how we do it. We govern by making sure we understand the challenges. The government that governs best is a government that governs less, because that means you get to live your own life.
That's good.
Well, thank you for coming on. We appreciate your time.
It's my pleasure. Anytime.
Very big. Yeah. I know you, like we said, you have a busy schedule and stuff, but we appreciate you making time. And then for the audience, for people, so they could see this side of Greg Lopez and stuff, and
not just what they read in the news or all that stuff.
Look, and I'm going to tell you, I'm not perfect, right? We all make mistakes. I've made my mistakes, and I'll continue to make mistakes. The problem is we got to learn from them, right? We learn from our mistakes, and so I don't want anybody to believe or think for a minute that I'm perfect, because I'm not. There was only one perfect man that ever walked this earth, and we nailed him to the cross. So none of us are perfect, but we must always remember our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, because without him, we're nothing.
Yeah, for sure. No, Greg.
Couldn't have said it any better.
To end it. Yeah, appreciate it. And for everybody, check out Greg's stuff. He's a big candidate for this stuff. We wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Coming around the corner, and we'll be in touch. We got the primaries on the 28th of June, 28th.
Right? So I need an army. I need an army of volunteers out there to say, hey, we want to help this guy. We want to make him the next governor of Colorado, because I'm going to get outspent, right? And they're going to shut down my social media. But they can't shut down a word-of-mouth campaign. So if you guys are interested in helping us, go to my website, Lopez2022.com. Be a part of this movement. Be a part of history.
All right, guys, be sure to subscribe to keep checking up on our new videos coming up. And, thank you for being here. And, just remember, guys, an act of rebellion is the question.
Thanks, Ray.
You betcha.
Cool.